Hey, John.
What's it been, like 5, 6 years?
Oh, something like that. I mean, you've been a stranger too
I
long.
know, looks like you've been busy.
Oh,
Lots of buildings.
we have. We've got a lot of new projects that, we completed over the last 3 or 4 years.
Is that the museum over there?
Actually, the building over there, that's our new jewelry shop and gift shop.
Cool.
The second level down, where the ore sorting tables were and the grizzle, that area there is our new museum.
Well, how cool is that?
Oh, it's phenomenal. Wait till you see it. It houses, as far as we know, the largest kerosene lamp collection in the U.S.
Well, that's going to be fun.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I'll get a few shots of that.
Oh, yeah, we hope you do.
Well,
Yeah.
show me what you.
Well, we've
Last
been.
time I was in here, it was kind of a mess.
Oh, it was a mess. We've done a lot of retimbering, cleaning. We started about 4 years ago and got approval on our first tour. That was a big deal. I mean, people have been waiting for 20 years to go on this tour. They have been coming here year after year just to be able to go in here. Now, when we opened the tour up, we had one single tour. And over the last 2 years, I've managed to clean out a multitude of other tunnels. Now, we have 3 tours now. We have 2 basic 45-minute tours. One takes you into the tunnels that have been improved in 1974. One takes you down into the 1891 tunnels as they existed when the
Those
old-timers.
old ones that were full of muck.
Oh,
when I
man,
was here.
3 or 4 feet of muck and rock that we, in some places, had to shovel and wheelbarrow out. And then now we have a 15-minute tour.
Cool.
So we cover everybody's needs, but everything is separate. Every tour is different.
So they can pick the one they have time for.
Yep, and we actually have plans for the room that we call the ballroom.
Oh, that'd be
The
fun.
ballroom, we want to ultimately have a lunch tour where you can sit for an hour, relax, eat lunch, and you'll be able to discuss anything you want to, and I will be the one guiding that tour.
And sitting and answering questions.
Sitting and answering questions, and
Wow,
you're going to be
cool.
sitting looking at a beautiful amethyst and silver vein that runs through what we call a pillar or a column that supports a junction of tunnels. And you're going to be right there close to it where you can lay your hands on it.
Well, let's get going. I want to see this.
All right, we'll get on in. We got,
So this is the first time through?
yeah, this is the first inspection, 2022. Straight ahead is one of our new #1 tours from 1974. This is the initial inspection on it.
So is this the first tunnel they cut? Was this one?
No, this is the last tunnel, one of the last tunnels they cut in 1974 when they were in here doing exploration. And it's the shortest tour we have. It's about a 15-minute tour. You can come in, you can see the veins, you can see areas that they worked and marked off on the side of the tunnels. And
So you just,
dead ends down here in a clay deposit. Now, we're constantly aware of the air quality. We have to have 19.5% oxygen minimum to be able to do tours underground. I like to have it about 20, and that's where we're between 19.8 and 20 is where we're normally at.
and this tunnel is a short
Short
tour?
tour.
People don't have the time to,
Yeah, people that don't have 45 minutes to an hour to do the long tour. This is a simple tour. They get to see it. We're setting new lighting in it in different places because there are some veins of amethyst in here. One right over our head right here. This is the amethyst vein. This runs up through
I see
here.
it.
And, people will walk by this and never see it.
well, I didn't even notice it.
But it runs all the way through. This is about a 2 to 3 inch amethyst vein. Runs from the ground up, straight overhead, and back down the other side.
And that's the vein that also had the silver in it.
Yeah. This is what they followed for the silver. You know, if they were following the amethyst vein, they were following the silver. Now you'll notice this is called the amethyst vein, but it's blue. That blue color is because of the concentration of the solid silver that's been dissolved in the agate.
That is spectacular.
And that's just a small one. We have veins throughout this area. When I first started clearing this area, I didn't think we had any veins in here. And I have found several. And it's a good thing because people want to see what they were mining. Now you can see it firsthand.
When they were in here originally, some of the veins were not like that. They were feet wide.
Oh yeah. Now, there was veins in here from 4 to 6 feet wide. And in certain areas, you can still see some of these veins. Some of those areas aren't open to the public yet, but we're working on that. And eventually it will be.
So when we were here, what was it, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think
Did
it
that
was.
original tourist trekking video. None of this was done. We were just walking on the original.
All right.
What had sloughed in over the years.
Now to the right here, this is the main haulage tunnel. This is where we're headed next. The main haulage tunnel is where they brought all of the ore out from underground. And this has been used since about 1891. Now what we've got here is a tunnel that is about 3 foot taller and 4 foot wider than what it was in 1891.
Now this was one of the stopes that we looked at that first year.
Now the first year, if you go back and look at this is piled up about 8 foot high with rock. All of this rock had to be cleaned. I had to bring it out, build a ramp to be able to get up in here with the mini excavator in order to drag it, pull it, and push it back out.
And this has the old rails in here.
We're finding the old rails in most of the old tunnels. And I bought some specialty buckets for my excavator that will fit in these tunnels. And it doesn't dig them up, it leaves them behind.
So in those last few years, what do you figure you've hauled out of here? Hundreds and hundreds or thousands of yards of?
Probably thousands of yards. And it went out with one Bobcat bucket at a time, all the way down this tunnel and out. Now this old George's been with me a long time. He's an old hard rock miner, but he's kind of crotchety. And he accuses me of working him to the bone. But he's still friendly, he likes to wave.
So the timbers that are up above in these tall stopes, those were workstations for the miners, right?
They were workstations. These men wedged these timbers in, stuck boards between them, and stood there and dug the ore out and let it fall down below. Where a mucker would shovel it up, put it in a bucket, and haul it out. Now, we're going to continue on into another section. The room on the left here, this is our storage room for some of our components we use underground.
Make sure my dog isn't getting lost. Tuca?
And so this is our safe room. If we have a problem underground, the safe room is where we sit and wait for help. We have a phone in the upper box there We have first aid equipment here. Back in the back is where we store our water and snacks. So we put water in there for everybody to have. And so we can be in here for a substantial amount of time until rescued. We don't ever expect to have an issue with rescue because this is a hard rock mine and we don't have rock fall in the areas that we take the public.
So this is the 45-minute tour that
It
comes
is.
up this way.
Yeah. This is the 45-minute tour. Now, this here is part of the tunnel system that was in here, that they blasted in extensions in 1974. The area over here is a drill pattern where they drilled and, was ready to blast it.
This is one we saw before,
Yeah,
and this was just a pile of rubble. You couldn't even get close to
no,
it.
you couldn't get close to it. We found this drill pattern later. And the pipe that's in the middle of it, that pipe is a core pipe. They would drill a hole in and see what's back there. If there's nothing back there, then they didn't blast. But they didn't blast this, not because there was nothing back there, but because there was something back there. Something that would not be advisable to blast. And that's an old 1891 stope.
Oh.
So it could have been devastating had they blasted this. This could have been a major cave-in this area.
So they were just concerned
Yep.
with what they found while they were drilling.
Yeah, it's all about safety. And it still is while we're underground. Now, as we split off and come over this way, this was the old 1891 tunnel came through here.
Was this where it was dripping water and
No.
with the old beams?
No, it isn't.
Oh.
That's another area altogether. This area we've opened up to the public. Here's the amethyst vein, and you can see the vein here is almost a foot wide, and it goes overhead, comes right back down the other side, and this was what they were chasing. Only when they drove the tunnel through here in 1891, they came into this area here and broke into this stope. Now this stope here, everything you see here,
Holy
from
cow.
one side to the other, was silver ore. Somewhere, places, it was 8 feet wide.
So this was a vein.
A vein. Everything from the left side to the right side. Everything that's gone was high-grade silver ore. And the workstations that you see wedged in there were put in 1891. They are not there to hold the mountain. They were there for men to put planks on and stand on. And you can see right directly in front of you here, there's a mine rail here. Now this mine rail dates back to 1891.
So
You
it
see-
went up on top the posts?
Yep, you see it's laying on timbers. Those timbers were wedged in there and ore carts ran down this with 2,000 pounds of ore in them.
Holy cow. So they would bring it out here and then dump it in another cart
Yep.
and then haul it down the main
and then it would
tunnel.
go out.
So this is all part of the 45-minute tour, and it gives everybody a lot better
What you've seen.
vision of what these guys were doing in
Yeah.
here.
This is one 45-minute tour. Now we're going to step into the other 45-minute tour. You can choose this one, or you can choose the 1891 tour. The 1891 tour is where we're going to head next. This was only had about 3 foot of clearance to climb over a pile to get into this tunnel. Now this area here is the old 1891 tunnel. Mechanized equipment never came back in here. This was all done by hand.
This was just the men with picks and shovels and.
Yeah, exactly the way you see it is exactly the way the miners worked it in 1891. Same size.
Duke.
Now this was a big stope. This had all ore in it. And they dug this ore out and removed it. But this area had 4 feet of muck in it, which is the rock that they left behind. That was above the old rails here that I'm standing on. Now, this all had to be, I had to ramp that, bring the mini excavator in here, and slowly drag it back, push it out. Once it was pushed out, the bobcat could scoop it up and haul it out.
And trying to keep the rails and
Yeah,
everything in the place that they were.
right. We want people to see, what it actually looked like and where the men actually walked 130 years ago. Well, we're gonna step on in. Watch your head through here. As I said, these men were
considerably
short,
shorter.
and you will bang your head. This is a junction of 2 tunnels.
Tuka.
And we'll head on in.
So how many miles of tunnels did you say that first time we were here?
We don't know exact numbers, but we do know that it's somewhere between 30 and 40 miles of tunnels in 13 different levels. This is only number 2 level.
And how many miles do you think you've explored and tended to?
Well,
Just a few out of those?
this one here is the only one. I've explored several at different points, but this is the most extensive one that I've got.
Okay.
Now this was what they called, glory hole. This must have been pretty high grade ore because they dug it out, and you can see the rock is not blasted. It's pretty solid. So this was for lack of a better term, an empty gas bubble. And as the fluids was being pushed up, they were being deposited. And if you'll notice right there, that black is conducive to one of 2 metals, silver or manganese, or a combination of either. But that was the vein they followed up in there. So there had to be something there for them to do that. And this is an old ladder from the early days. We found it in here exactly where it sits today, and we leave it here for everybody to see. These men were meticulous in their construction. These joints are very tight. They are recessed, so it's a nice, easy climb up the ladder. It's one of the best wooden, well-built ladders I've seen.
Huh. So when people are on the tour, how far do you think they're needing to walk back in here? It's just a few hundred yards into here, isn't it?
You probably do about a quarter of a mile. Now, this area here was all timbered. We got into this area and started cleaning, and we're still working in this area. We're not done with it by any means. This is where they drop the ore down. You can see a natural fissure right here. And if you look, you can see how the water has flowed down it.
Oh, yeah.
So we're getting precipitation through from the surface to here, but this was an ore body. This was where they mined it out. Now,
And so this gives people an idea of what you were dealing with when you first started opening this mine. This is the condition of the mine, and more of what we saw when we were here 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you've done a tremendous amount of work.
Now, right back in here, you can see the ore chutes still in place back under those timbers.
That they were dropping it down, loading it in carts,
So we know
pushing it out by hand on rails.
We know this goes up to another level somewhere. Now, if we can reopen the chute itself, and get this retimbered, I would like to be able to put a ladder up that chute way and move up and find out what's up there. You can see the log cribbing still in place back in there.
And that was to keep the muck,
Yep. From doing
the
what
dirt,
this did.
from sloughing in like this did.
Yeah. Now these here, these have already failed and collapsed. So we can't use the same thing, but I can take measurements off of them and replace them with similar material. This is Douglas fir. These timbers that you see supporting there have been standing there since 1891. That says
they
a
were
lot.
probably sourced locally from these local forests.
Oh yeah, everything was taken from here.
So all of this work that you, in this tunnel, you did by hand, shoveling it to the end of the tunnel and then hauling it out with a,
Yep.
with a,
We took it out by wheelbarrow.
oh, yeah.
And to reopen this one to what you're seeing today took 2 years.
To get this tunnel done.
Yep. At the junction up here, we're gonna bear to the right.
And we came in on the left.
Yep. And we're gonna bear to the right.
So a person doesn't want to just come in here and wander on their own.
No. You can get lost in here.
It's kind of like Tuka.
Oh, he's back here. He's already made the circle. He's already figured out.
My dog's already figured out
He's figured out the mine. He understands how it works. Now this is a big stope. We're not really sure how high it goes. We know it's probably over 100 to 150 feet.
I'm gonna have to come back in after this with this camera not on the stabilizer to video that. And more of the many levels of the workstations where the guys stood up there on planks with pickaxes dropping that
Yep.
ore down in here.
Yep. Yeah. This, they followed the ore vein through to the other tunnel where we were at a while ago that I showed you the stope over there. This goes to show you how much of a maze this place actually is.
So there's just laced with, they just followed every vein wherever it went and
Yeah.
tried to tie it all together.
This here will be tour number, this is the one we call tour number 3.
And this is where you're still working.
Yeah, this is the one we call the ballroom. Now, I have plans.
We didn't come back in here. You didn't even have this to where we could
No.
come back in here the first time around.
My plans for this is twofold. I would like to have, and I
Tuka.
have a lot of musicians that want to come in here and play music. We'd like to set up a music venue, but we would also like to set up a lunch tour. You book it up, you get to come in here at lunchtime with a pre-designated lunch that we will be getting from one of the restaurants locally. You have to reserve it 3 days in advance. You pick what you want to eat and drink, And then at lunchtime, you have to be here 10 minutes prior to lunch. We will come in, I will give you the tour, I will answer questions during that period of an hour, and then we will take the rest of our lunch trash and take it out with us.
So you're gonna bring it in little miner's pails like the
It will
guys
be
used to
little
be?
buckets. Now,
How many miles? You bought a few spools of wire to
we bought a lot of wire.
run all this, and this is all LED and all run off of solar.
Yes.
Till we get back.
This here is a stope. You know, we're going to close this off so people can walk over, but you can't fall off. This is where you were at over there a while ago. This is that rail that you saw.
It ran across
That ran across.
the workstations.
From this side, you can see very clearly what these men pushed these ore carts across and down. 'Cause that's a long way down. You wouldn't want to drop off there with an ore cart.
Holy cow.
Now, directly over your head is part of the amethyst vein, still in place.
Oh, I'm gonna have to bring a still camera in. and
That's
get that
what they
picture.
mined.
So that's got silver probably embedded in it and amethyst and
Everything that's against this wall here, that blackish gray, that's high silver content, agate and amethyst. But the old miners would leave this. Now there's a belief among miners of the Tommyknockers. The legend of the Tommyknockers, and I heard this legend from my grandfather who was a coal miner. And he would tell me the stories of the Tommyknockers, and I thought it was just old miners' legend and myth. And a lot of people will tell you that's all it is. Well, most miners, especially the older miners, don't believe it's myth. I've had my experiences in here with something. Tommyknockers, I believe. And if you do the right thing by the mine, you don't have a problem.
they're happy with you.
Yep. And that is why they were leaving deposits like that behind. The miners believe that you never took it all. If you took it all, Tommyknockers weren't happy with you.
Weren't happy. And they would either cause a cave in
Yep.
or do something.
So, we've had our experiences. We had one of our college interns, volunteers one year. For whatever reason, Tommyknockers took either a dislike or a humorous like to him. We don't know which. But the three of us would be working in here, and we were actually working in this area, and you remember the safe room out front.
Yeah.
We would stage our lunches there. And at lunchtime, we would stop, go down, sit in the safe room, relax, take a break, eat lunch, and go back to work. Well, we were just finishing up, getting ready to break for lunch. We went down, and the intern said, "Where's my lunch?" And this wasn't the first incident, but this was the major incident. And I said, "What do you mean, where's your lunch?" He said, "I set it right here by this post." I said, "Well, if you set it there, it would be there. There ain't nobody in here but the three of us. And we've all been in the same area." He said, "No, one of you guys snuck over here and moved it." Now, he had accused us of moving tools that he was using on several other occasions. And never understood it. You know, he just, "Oh, okay, you laid a tool down, forgot you laid it there." But this particular time, he was just fit to be tied because he had no lunch. And finally I said, "Okay, let's grab our lunches. We'll go back out. I'll get you some stuff, fix you a sandwich and we'll eat." Now, all three of us left here and left the safe room at the exact same time. We walked out together, we stayed out together, and we came back in together. And his lunch was sitting right back by the post.
That's where it was.
So
Yeah, that's,
there's something that goes on. And I'm not going to be the one that doubts it.
that doubts it or denies it.
Yep. Over here is another area we're going to be repairing with some new timbers. You see the drill steels here driven into the ground. This is a stope that they brought it out. There's an old rail that come across it that went in this way. And this area here is an area that I just started cleaning last year. And for many years, I believed this to be an ore chute coming from up there. Well, as I cleaned this rock out, the rock was piled up all the way here and about 12 feet deep. The first thing I hit was this pipe. I bent this pipe up with the bucket, and I realized that's an air line for drilling. Then I caught the steel mine rail, and I realized this should not be here if this was just an ore chute, and it wouldn't have ran back in there as far as it did. It would have only been out here. And it took me most of the summer to excavate this out because it was over 20 feet deep and 12 feet high. Had to go out one bucket at a time in the Bobcat.
Can I interrupt you and ask you a question?
Sure.
What is that? Is that calcium or something?
No.
Or mold? Oh, that's mold.
That's fungus. It's nothing but fungus. And that's the way it grows.
And so that's part of the
This-
what rots the wood.
This is what deteriorates our wood. This is why we're switching, and this is pressure treated lumber. You know, this was built about 5 years ago, and it closed this area off. But, you know, we took it down, and that's just the humidity in the air. And you can see the black, this is another kind of mold, starting a fungus. Every now and then we'll see mushrooms in here, but this is a typical kind we see.
But
Now-
see, the airflow must keep it, the spore, because I smell the air is just, is fresh
Yeah, it is.
in here. So
Yep.
this is all coming up through all the levels of the mine. This has natural
We're-
aspiration.
Yeah, we're a naturally aspirated mine. The mine breathes. This is why we have such good air without having to run big fans.
So it's just continually being replaced
Yep.
in here by a constant airflow.
It changes twice a day. During the morning,
Totally.
it outcasts. Outcasting is when the air is coming through and venting out the portal. Then later in the day, it reverses and starts sucking fresh air in, pushing it out through the bottom.
So as the outside air heats and cools, it changes the flow through the mine.
It does. Now, as we move on forward, we illuminate that one, we illuminate this one. This is a tunnel that I've been working on now for 3 years. And that's 3 years with the piece of equipment that I have, the Bobcat and the mini excavator.
When we first came in here, we did about a third of what we've done today.
Yes. And you're saying far more because we've got so many more places open. This one we're already starting to prep.
Oh, I see you're hauling in you've got the base where it goes and bringing in.
Yep. This allows.
Normally you don't let tourists bring their dogs in here, right?
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, do you really? So they can come in?
We're the only dog-friendly mine in the United States.
I also understand that the Last Chance Mine is now the #1 thing to do in Creede.
Yes.
It's only taken you 23 years.
Well, it took me 20 years to hit the #1. 20 years of constant work, improving, making this place something worth seeing, and going from on a travel site, and I believe it's the best travel site out there, known as TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor. I've left a few reviews on that over the years.
It's a great travel site, get information from. At the end of 3 years ago, we took a jump from the #3 spot to the #1 spot. And I have people that have came last year especially from all over the world and the country that have came here and told me straight to my face that the Last Chance Mine, when they found it on site, on the website, or on tourist trekking, or other YouTube videos, they built their trip to Creede for coming to the Last Chance Mine. Over the years, as the business improved, put that every bit of the money back into it. I don't draw a salary. I put the money back into it in either equipment or materials.
So this is, for you, this is a labor of love that you're
is.
doing to expose people to what mining is and has been in the past.
It is, and, I have my retirement, and I can live off of what I have as a retirement. The mine was never intended to be a business that generated a huge profit. It was never intended. At best, it was only intended to supplement my retirement.
And to pay for it,
And
pay for itself.
And hopefully it would pay for itself. For many, many years, I drove truck, hauled explosives, worked for mines and mining companies, and have been in mines all over the country, been associated with many of the larger mines, and got to have, know some pretty good people that give me some good information. But I never believed that this would be what it is today.
Or that this is how you would spend your retirement.
It is. And you know what? If this is where I'm meant to die, so be it.
Yep.
And eventually, I will become a permanent part of the mine because I intend to be buried
here.
in the mine.
Well, hopefully that'll be another 20 or 30 years, because that's what it's going to take you to get everything done that you want to do. All right, let me see if I can figure out which way we came in. It's just off to the right. Well, no, it's not. It must
Okay.
be to the left.
All right here. Another vein.
Might have to shine your flashlight.
Now
on
this
it.
vein is on a pillar.
This is in the future lunchroom.
Yep.
So you're good. People will be here,
And be able to walk
sitting
up
right next to
and
the
be-
amethyst vein that
Yep.
everybody has heard about.
and be able to reach out and touch it.
That was the jail. We're down this way to the right. Am I right, or you
Doing
just
good so far.
you're just letting me see how lost I can get back in here?
Doing good so far.
And then you can come back in here and do some more photography and more video.
I told you there was more.
great, Scotty.
How's that?
You're right. It does sound beautiful in here.
Yeah, that's great.
Is there a name of that song, that tune, or is that just a
It's Scotty with a Y.
Scotty with a Y? Cool.
That's what I play.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you. All right.